I'm sure all of you men out there know that online dating is pretty much impossible for us these days. And back before that was the case, and you could actually meet women online, there was a problem then with women misrepresenting themselves on the website and like posting pictures from when they were younger or pictures that are extremely edited, things like that. And one time I met a model on Tinder, and she looked so good in her pictures, which of course she would have because they were modeling pictures. But she looked so good that she looked better than other models I have been with in the past. And I was really excited when she seemed into me because I'm thinking to myself, wow, this might be one of the most attractive women I've ever been with, assuming that, we do the deed together. And luckily for me, or unluckily, she made it seem like she was DTF. But unfortunately, in this case, that does not mean down to fuck. And when she showed up, she didn't look as good as she did in the pictures. It wasn't like a huge misrepresentation, but it was certainly a bit of a disappointment, though I've had worse. I've had women who looked really great in their pictures and showed up and were overweight. But this wasn't the case. The problem with this was that every time we started making out, or getting touchy-feely, she farted. Not on purpose, but she had like no control of her freaking anus and was constantly like letting loose farts at the absolute worst moments. And it was so disgusting because they also, of course, smelled, and my freaking room was starting to smell like rotten eggs. And so we never got past even, like some basic kissing and petting because, I would recoil in disgust. And after, I don't know, a matter of minutes, like maybe 15 minutes tops, I basically had to show her out. And she literally apologized for farting and then tried to give me one last kiss and still farted. She still farted again. It was so disgusting. I don't know what the hell was wrong with this woman who was an adult, obviously, and should have learned some freaking bowel control at that point in her life and how to hold in farts when she's in a social situation. But she didn't. She was just helplessly letting them loose, in a way that was audible. So audible that you could hear the texture that indicated that her anus was loose because there was like this flapping sound. It wasn't like the sort of crunching sound or the tearing or ripping or the vibrating sound of a fart coming through a tight anus. These farts sounded like she had a loose anus. And I don't know, maybe it's because she had actually loosened up her anus by sticking too many things in there. Maybe that was her fetish and something she was hoping that I would do for her. I don't know what was wrong with her anus, but it sounded awfully loose. Like air coming through curtains and making them flap. In fact, when it first happened, I thought it was a queef. And if it wasn't a sexual situation, it would have been hilarious. I mean, it's hilarious now that enough time has passed. But at that time, it was just so disgusting. Can you imagine trying to get intimate with someone who is just farting constantly, like every minute or so, and coincidentally every time you try to touch them and kiss them and get close, and then they're farting and you're so close that of course you catch a big whiff of it, and they're doing it so much that it fills up your whole room with the stench of rotten eggs. Well, it's freaking gross, obviously. But maybe it wasn't obvious to her. I don't think it was, because, you know, she should have left voluntarily. I shouldn't have had to show her out. But that's the problem with a lot of women who do modeling and either are attractive or just think of themselves as attractive, even if they aren't really, and they've just been made up to look attractive, because, you know, this woman wasn't, you know, the 9 or the 10 that she appeared to be on social media. She was a 7, if I'm being generous. Still doable, but not what I saw in the pictures. And then, of course, the farting made her go from a 7 down to a 6, and then a 5, and then a 4, and then finally I was just so disgusted and repulsed, I had to show her out. And, you know, I was just thinking to myself, what was this woman eating? What is she thinking, putting the kind of food into her body that's going to do this to her? But this is the problem with a lot of women who think of themselves as attractive because they've done, you know, even just a little bit of modeling and manipulated their image so much. They take their body for granted, and they will oftentimes trash their bodies with the most disgusting foods and not practice any kind of real physical control, you know, not be into things like fitness and health and such. And so, yeah, you could see a girl who looks great in photos, but in reality, she's a disgusting fucking animal. And the irony is that women like her think so much of themselves because of the modeling they've done and how they've manipulated their image, you know, that even though in real life they are, you know, either average or just, you know, a bit above average, like a 7 at best, they are shamelessly narcissistic. Like, this girl didn't even seem that embarrassed about her farting and kept trying to touch and kiss me while she was doing it. And I'm thinking to myself, my God, if I was having like an irritable bowel syndrome episode while trying to fuck a girl, I wouldn't be continuing to try to fuck the girl. Like, I would be practicing discretion and going to the freaking bathroom to take care of it. But not her. She obviously thought way too much of herself and literally thought that I was going to continue to try to fuck her in spite of her farting, which might actually happen with some guys. Like, maybe she's been with guys who will fuck women no matter what kind of disgusting things are happening. I would not be surprised about that. And that's probably one of the reasons why women are able to get away with so much, is because there's enough men out there that let them think of themselves in a narcissistic manner, in spite of the fact that they are actually really revulsive.